So I've got a new toy. I got a selfie stick. So I'm walking through the forest with a selfie stick. Isn't that funny? But I was thinking, people keep telling me, oh, you shouldn't have these vertical shots. They should be horizontal. So yes, now I'm professional now. I've got a selfie stick and I've got a horizontal picture. So I'm not sure it's going to make much difference. But anyway, I have it. So, what we're going to talk about today. Well, the nature is definitely starting to change. It's definitely starting to get a bit cooler. And I think that's always a time, autumn is a time where we begin to again just look a bit more inwards. Summer we've been outwards, and now we begin to look a bit more inwards. And really the whole spiritual search is about looking inwards to discover who we are, who we truly are, not what we've been conditioned to be. And through my own spiritual search, what I've seen after these 35 years of being on the, 35 years of being on this path, is that actually what is the most important thing is the simple things, the really simple things. So keeping things really simple. You know, when I lived in the Buddhist community for a long time, we had some really complex practices. It was Tibetan Buddhism, and we would, visualize green lights and red lights and chakra systems, and just, it was really complex. It was really kind of, there was a lot to it. But these days, it's really, for me, it's all about simplicity. And it's all about just bringing this simplicity into our daily lives. And one of the most common questions I get asked actually is, how can I be more present in my daily life? Or how can I stay more present in my daily life? And actually what we have to be clear about is, there is something inside us that is always present. Actually there's more than one thing. The body is always present. The body is always here, right? The awareness is always here, right? The seeing is always here, right? But something isn't present. What is that thing that isn't present? And that is the thing that you have to see through, because once you see through that, then the whole thing about you trying to be present, it's almost like, no. You take away the thing that isn't present, and then you are naturally present. You can't be other than be present. So what is the thing that is not present? Well, it's the mind. As you know, it's the mind. The mind is always here, there, and everywhere. So how to change your relationship to the mind? Because the mind is a wonderful tool that we need, but to be run by it, to be identified with it, to only know ourselves to be the mind is a very different thing. So, you can begin by just spending certain times of the day where you just leave your mind aside. You just say, okay, right now, I'm walking in nature, or I'm spending some time just resting, or whatever it might be. But right now, in this moment, I don't need my mind. So then you just leave the mind aside. And you get used to resting in that place of no mind. When you're in the place of no mind, what would ask, how can I stay more present? You are present. You are presence itself. You see, the mind is asking, how can I stay more present? And the mind is the thing that is very rarely present. So if I address those questions on the level that they're coming from, it isn't really going to help. I could give you lots of practices about how to stay more present, but what is more powerful is to recognize what isn't present, and to begin to just leave that aside. And in fact, right now, just as you're sitting here right now, just in this moment, if you leave your mind aside for a moment now, if you don't pick up your mind for a moment now, and you just bring the awareness into the body, maybe you take a few breaths into the body, and you just allow yourself to abide in the body. You allow yourself to have the feelings that you're having, whatever feelings are there. But again, you don't identify with them. You don't try to change them. They're just there as they are. If you don't identify with the mind, and you don't identify with these feelings, just allow, then what begins to reveal itself is this ground of being. This ground of sacred peacefulness. This natural, felt sense of wholeness. Just take a few moments, just abide in being. Rest in being. The more you're able to rest in being, the more you're able to get a sense of what it is to rest in being, then naturally this sense of beingness will become more natural for you. It's been covered up by false identity. But as you come to rest more in being, you come to recognize that there is something here which is much deeper than my conditioned personality. And as you begin to rest in being, what you'll begin to sense is a much deeper feeling of peace within you, a much deeper feeling of wholeness within you, a much more consistent basis through which you are knowing your sense of self. And this is why I say that the simplicity of resting in being, it's got nothing to do with visualizations. It's got nothing to do with imaginations. All of that stuff, leave it. Come into the simplicity of your own being. When you are established inside the state of being, when your sense of being is your natural resting ground, then we can also look what is even aware of being. That which knows being. That which cannot be known as an object, and yet it knows everything else. All of that then becomes our inquiry. All of that becomes our spiritual practice. And the whole sense of how can I stay more present will just fall away. It just won't be there for you. You are present. You are presence. You are being, and you are the self. And then your job after that, once you've realized your true nature, your job after that is to be that, simply to be that, and to recognize when you come out of that, to recognize when you go into something else, to recognize when you go into division, and just compassionately, gently, lovingly, continuously come back to yourself. Come back to yourself. So, great first video on the new selfie stick. That was fun. I hope it was helpful.